Peace. This is S.S.Oracle, Shadow and Soul Oracle. This is Savvy. Peace to the initiates. Peace to the initiates into Kemetic, ancient Egyptian science and spirituality. All right. Like I'm going to be using ancient Egypt, Kemetic interchangeably, just so you make that correlation if people are just new to understanding that that is one and the same. Okay, that is the ancient name for Egypt, Kemet. Okay, but I'm coming on to share a bit about life, sex, and death. But before I get into that, I just want to mention that I've been posting my channeled intuitive messages on my socials. Right, I haven't been posting many readings or anything like that, videos lately, because I've been doing that on here on YouTube, my Facebook, and also my Instagram threads is where I post a lot of those channeled messages, just whatever's floating through the collective consciousness I'll pick up on that's most relevant. So I've been doing that if you want to check those out. But I was inspired to come on and give word about Kemetic science, right? Kemetic spirituality and those initiating into that knowledge or that path in terms of your spiritual foundation. Okay. And how sex and death are key concepts to Kemetic spirituality and science, right? We have the Ankh, right? Everyone knows this symbol. Most people know this symbol, right? We know this as the symbol of life, right? And what is it? It's also a symbol of sex and a symbol of death. Okay, it is that too, right? And so when people think about ancient Egypt or Kemetic culture, you think about the death, funerary rites, and mummification and the afterlife. So that's a key concept. And so what I've realized is that on an evolutionary path, and whether you're a melanated person or not, black person, melanated person or not, and you resonate with this, right? Because ancient Egypt dealt with beyond the physical matters, right? Metaphysical matters, frequency, vibration, sound, okay? Those kind of things. So it wasn't necessarily, there's a deeper resonance if you do have the melanin, right? And if you are of African descent, there is that deeper resonance. But there's a very heavy emphasis on beyond the physical when it comes to Kemetic science and spirituality. And so sex is a concept beyond the physical as well. The thing about our reluctancy to talk about sex in spiritual spaces, especially in Black communities, is because of the colonization and the demonization and the perversion of sex. Because what is life itself but sex and death, right? The symbol. Okay, life is sex and death. So those are supposed to be conversations that we have in regards of our understanding of life whenever we're talking about spiritual work. All right. And so when we're embarrassed or ashamed or scared to talk about these things, that's proof that we are not evolving, right? The least that we know about sex and death is the detriment to our evolution as spiritual beings, because that is life. Okay, so we have to be open to talking about these things. That's where a lot of our healing needs to be done in terms of grief with death, right? And dealing with grief and how to handle and understand the life transition. And then also with sex and possible traumas, right? And wounds that we deal with when it comes to sex. Like those are big issues and factors in our lives in terms of wanting to be healed and wanting to be involved and wanting to ascend and, do all these things and be at peace, in our older years in life, right? Because we go through the process, like speaking of Kemetic science, and we talk about like Ma'at, right? Laws of Ma'at, and facing the scales of judgment being your heart against the law, right? But your heart being your center of morality and integrity and truth. Whereas it's saying when you profess these laws, or when you recite the laws of Ma'at, you're meant to be at peace with your life and your life experiences, right? Who you are, how you are, and how you live your life every day. That's judgment that happens in the heart. And it's not just for when you're at the stage of death and going into the afterlife. It's an everyday thing, because there's also the concept of coming forth by day, which is every day. Sleeping is a form of transition or death, right? So we're facing these things constantly every day. It's not just the afterlife after we've had our human experience. No, it's everyday life. Okay. And so we're here to learn, and we have to keep ourselves open to learning and not be ashamed of what life is for us and what things mean for us, and how we can elevate and be our best selves out here. All right. Like the Kemetic spirituality, Kemetic science is very arcane, right? Very occult, very sacred. And, you know, it requires a certain mind to be able to resonate with it. Like a lot of people resonate with the science, but the initiation, right? Because I'm putting that out there as far as the Kemetic initiates, because the initiation process is how you incorporate these things into your everyday living, right? And how in touch you are with those ancient ancestors, whether you've encountered them in your dreams, which is a form of initiation, or you've encountered them through some type of, outer body experience, maybe a near-death experience is one. If you've ever had a near-death experience, you may have come in contact with some ancient Kemetic deities and forces, or some type of trip, like a psychedelic trip, whether it was like DMT or shrooms, ayahuasca, and all of that kind of stuff, right? You may have come in contact with some Kemetic, you know, forces for you to be initiated. That's proof that you have the capacity to embody and to retain the knowledge and the wisdom when you come in contact with that. That's the initiation process. Initiation, as far as I've understood it on my path and the 10 plus years that I've been just kind of studying and incorporating things in my life, the initiation is not like a person to person where you may experience that in other cultural religions or African cultural religions, where it's like a person initiates you. Kemetic initiation is something that happens beyond the physical. Another person is not going to initiate you into a Kemetic science. It's a personal thing. It's that deep. Okay. It's that deep. It's that it has to be something that actually comes out of you and is activated within you to want to study, right? And live by, as far as your spiritual understanding, spiritual foundation. Okay. And so with that being said, I'll touch on this because this doesn't really have to do with life, sex, and death, but in being an initiate into Kemetic spirituality and Kemetic science, like the understanding is that there's no scapegoating, right? So if coming from more traditional religion, say Christianity, and then going into a Kemetic science, there's no scapegoating. The self is responsible, right? So there's no, you blame something. Like if you're blaming the lower nature, like you're blaming yourself. If you're blaming Set, okay, like you're blaming yourself. Like there's nothing. The idea is for you to be at peace in your heart and how you live every day and being okay with how you live. All right. But you're also to be following the virtues of Ma'at. So for example, I'll just give this example. If say a person's comfortable with being a scammer, right? That's their truth. They're comfortable with it. In terms of judgment in the heart and weighing the scales, they're good. If they're okay with being a scammer, okay, and I'm not condoning this and I'm not encouraging people to be scammers. I'm just giving an example of how this looks. Okay. If somebody is comfortable and okay and proud of themselves for being a scammer, they are living in harmony with themselves. Right? The issue with that is if you claim to be following Ma'at, but you are deceptive and you're a scammer, that's a little conflicting, right? And so in this science, there's no cherry picking. You will always feel the consequence, the negative consequence of going against your heart. If you claim to be a part of a system, a religious system, because it is a religious system, they've bastardized and perverted and demonized the word religion too. If you claim to be a part of religion, which is following of the laws of Ma'at, you understand that there's an order to that. You understand that there's a moral integrity to that, which is your heart. So you wouldn't necessarily be the person that scams or deceives if you follow Ma'at, even if you're proud of it. That's something that people more so do in traditional religions like Christianity, and this is why people have so many issues in the church. And I'm saying this openly because I know people know, right? How there's a lot of deception and corruption within the church, and you could do that kind of stuff there and it's not gonna, affect you. But in this kind of science, it's your own heart. So if you can't go to sleep at night at peace with yourself, you're gonna feel that constantly, though you're not gonna be okay. Okay, like you're not gonna be okay. All right, you're not gonna be okay. You have to. You have to be sincere. That's a part of the initiation process too. The sincerity, the pure of heart. Right. You have to be pure of heart to want to live by certain principles. Right. And not try to just like function around them and just get your way around things. You know what I'm saying? Somebody knows what I'm saying. Like somebody may have needed to hear that. But yeah, this was about life, sex, and death. Like the importance of sex and death within Kemetic spirituality and Kemetic science. Those are key things that are a part of the science. Key things. This is a key, right? Life, sex, death. That's the key, right? When you look at the hieroglyphics, you'll see them with the key to their lips, right? Because the power of the word, the power of speech, right? The Heka magic, Ashe, Aset. Okay, but that's that. If you are interested in booking any service with me, I do a free service consultation. So you could book a free service consultation with me and we could talk more about this, and I could possibly provide you some resources, some books, perhaps, so that you could begin your journey of understanding the importance of understanding and growing in your knowledge of sex and death, as far as understanding Kemetic spirituality and Kemetic science. Or we could talk about anything in regards to your path, where I could maybe point you in a direction, or just, talk about how you've been awakening and things like that. That's part of the service consultation. There's also a multi-dimensional chit chat. All right, we can talk about all of the arcane, occult things. Okay, a one-on-one spiritual wealth building session where we talk about how to have a more spiritual centered life, away from materialism and seeking materialism for forms of security and stability, whereas you would want to anchor yourself with more spiritual principles or connection with higher powers, ancestors, spirit guides, angels, etc., etc. That's the one-on-one spiritual wealth building. Okay, for those that may not feel like they have the security that they're looking for because there's something missing within your spiritual connections, or something that's disconnected within that. We could dive into that during that session. Also, my readings, alchemy readings. Okay, we get into chakras and zodiac signs in that session, and love life readings as well. That could be the self journey to self-love, or relationships as well. I am a shadow and soul oracle. That means I deal with the ugly, nasty, don't want to deal with that, don't want to talk about that, I don't want to talk about that type of stuff. So okay, that's what we getting into. And I gotta mention that after talking about love readings, because I don't just tell people what they want to hear in a love reading. Okay, if I need to tell you, you need to get your shit together, excuse my language, before you trying to be with somebody, that's what I'm gonna tell you. Okay, like the love readings are not just fluff. All right, none of the readings are just fluff. Okay, we get into the shadow, we get into the deep work. Okay, and then we get into the soul in terms of enlightenment and what's true for you and what's true to you on your path and on your journey in this lifetime. Okay, I also have a book, Word to the Wise, Spiritual Messages for Self and Relationships. It's an ebook on Amazon. You can download that. I have a link to some old music on my SoundCloud on there, a blog where I talk about some metaphysical concepts. So there's a lot to check out. Again, my socials are flooded with channeled intuitive messages. You can check that out again: Facebook, Threads, Instagram, and even here on YouTube. All right, so like, share, and subscribe, and I will speak to some of y'all soon, or I'll see y'all again, or y'all will see me again on a video in the future. Peace.